What's going on YouTube? Cloverbells here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be recapping and giving our thoughts on the news that we got earlier this morning from the Pokemon Presents, specifically about Pokemon Champions, which we now know will be released in 2026, as it says here on the website. Now, first of all, before I continue any further, if you have not watched the Presents yet and don't want any spoilers, right, then stop watching this video now and watch the Presents first, and then come back here and see what we have to say. You know, it's been about 12 hours or so, so hopefully we aren't really spoiling at this point, but just in case, this is my official warning to stop watching now and go ahead and watch the Presents first, and then watch us. All right. Anyway, so without further ado, let's go ahead and let's talk about what we learned from the morning. All right, so actually on here, in the website, they already have the 2-minute overview for Pokemon Champions from the Pokemon Presents here. So if you're just only concerned about Champions, this is the video you have to watch, instead of just, having to, slog through, or in this case, fast forward, through all the other Pokemon news from the entire Pokemon Presents. This one is just specifically for Pokemon Champions here. And, I'm going to let this run through a little bit as we, discuss some of the news here, and then we'll look at the written stuff that they have on the website here. But, as a competitive player, as a VGC player, this is the one that we're concerned about the most. Of course, we care about the other games, for example, like Legends EA and whatnot, but, as a competitive battler, from the VGC, and this is supposed to be the game that's supposed to change everything, right? Because, at the regional level or at the competitive level, this is where you're going to start playing VGC now, right? Because one of the main drawbacks of playing Pokemon is you have to go through the story, the journey, the exploration part, before you can start focusing on the competitive battling, and the team building aspect, right? But now all of that gets supposedly stripped away, with Champions here, where now you only have to worry about just the battles itself, right? And there you go, there's the battles part, right? So that's good, right? So this way, that saves a lot of time, and that also improves entry point into the game, right? So now it's more accessible, which is good. That means more people are going to be more inclined to play. There's not as much of a hill to climb, to get to the competitive aspect, right? Now you can just start relatively easily, because this is almost like an improved modern version of Pokemon Stadium, in my opinion, right? Where you can just strictly get into the games, get to battling, not having to worry about, saving this person or Team Rocket or anything like that. Now I can just immediately jump into the competitive aspect of the game, right? And, one of the things that they talk about in the trailer here is this recruitment system here, where, let me just actually backtrack a little bit, where you can bring, your Pokemon, from Pokemon Home into the game itself, which is, important in this instance, right? So look at this. They give you like a starting pool of some Pokemon that you can already have and jump into games with, which is great, right? But at some point, I'm going to be needing specific Pokemon that I want for my teams, right? And, you can move stuff over, but, the Pokemon Home is going to help out a lot with this, and that's important, right? So this way I don't have to spend this amount of money to play Sword and Shield to get this Pokemon and whatnot. I can just rely on this and recruit. Okay, and there's also a way to do that where they have something called victory points. So let me just go ahead and scroll down on the website here and show you that part. All right, so right down here at the bottom of the website, this is where they start talking about victory points here. Because again, with Champions, how are you going to get the Pokemon that you need for your team? You have to recruit them, and the only way to do that is with victory points over here. So if you read what they say, right, victory points can be gained from ranked battles and other places in Pokemon Champions. You'll need VP to recruit and train Pokemon here, right? So that's the way to get them. So you have to battle. Okay, right? It says VP cannot be directly purchased, and that is like maybe the most important part of this thing, right? So because the first question that people were asking is, are there going to be microtransactions for victory points, right? Because again, this is mobile, right? So there's going to be definitely some microtransactions, right? Because again, you need to make some money. So can people just simply buy a ton of VP and then get the Pokemon they need? And they're saying no, you cannot. The only way you can get them is through battling there. So, the next question is, well, what if I lose a bunch of battles? What if I'm just like a super beginner and, I'm not really good at Pokemon battling? If I lose, can I still get VP? That remains to be seen, but I would imagine you know, if you lose, maybe you just get less, right? You know, and if you win, you get more. Maybe just by playing a game, you earn a set amount or fixed amount of VP. Anyway, I haven't really seen anything on that or read anything on that yet, but you know, they have some images here of the recruitment here. So right here, right, where it says trial recruitment, have a Pokemon join your team for a trial period, right? So you can test them out. You can battle with it right away and test whether it will suit your strategy. You can use trial recruitment once a day, right, without using victory points here, right? So, you know, if I just want to, you know, experiment and try something out, right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to click trial recruitment, where again over here it says it costs 0 VP, which is going to help a lot, right? Let me just make this a little bit, you know, zoom out a little bit so this way you guys can see the text a little bit more. Okay, yeah, there we go. So 0 VP, and then now if I want to permanently buy them, now of course it's going to cost a set amount of VP, and over here it says 1,000. That's of course just an example of the game. Who knows if different Pokemon have a different VP requirement, right? Maybe some are more than others, who knows? I haven't read anything on that either. But again, you know, if you know, once you have your VPs, you got to spend them, right? And then recruit the Pokemon that you want here, right? So that's good. Now, as far as like training part, okay, this is where you know, things get, you know, more interesting, and this is what we care about most, you know, especially in terms of the VGC side. All right, I'm gonna go here on Pokemon Showdown for a second here, and we'll talk about the training aspect, especially, you know, what they show in the video here. But you know, let me just say something here. You know, one of the biggest drawbacks for VGC, you know, is that it's somewhat inaccessible to, you know, a lot of newcomers, just because, you know, you have to spend hours, you know, just grinding, you know, for perfect IV Pokemon, for example, or, you know, grinding for battle points and for these mints and whatnot, just to be able to change this ability, change this nature and whatnot. Now, of course, as you know, generations have gone by, this has gotten easier, and the time to do this has gotten shorter and shorter and shorter, right? Thank God. But you know, as a VGC player, it's still not short enough, right? You know, I still want to be able to go on Pokemon Showdown and just do this, right? I want to move sliders up and down very simply like this, you know, and if it didn't work out, you know, I didn't want to farm at all. I just wanted to do this again, right? Just do this and this, right? Until I've got, you know, what I wanted in terms of, you know, EV investment, right? I didn't want to spend 10 minutes even, all right? I just wanted to be able to do this instantaneously with the click and a couple of drags of a few sliders here, right? And thankfully, you know, our prayers have been answered as a VGC player, right? Because in Champions, that is exactly what you are able to do. So if I run the training part of the video, look at this, right? There's the side, there's the HP investment. You can slide it up and down. Speed, same thing. You can slide it up and down, which is great, right? So if you know the stat that you want, you can just simply move it up and down. The only thing you have to do, right, obviously, right, here's the nature part, is just spend the VP that you have, and then you're able to do just that. Now, that being said, you know, my next question is like, okay, what if I don't have enough VP? What if I've done this so much and I run out of VP? You know, that means I still have to spend time, you know, battling, you know, to keep accumulating VP. So this way I can still do this, you know, with the, you know, the Showdown sliders and whatnot. So that to me tells me I don't think Showdown dies, right? Because if I still have to experiment, you know, and spend VP to be able to do this, then maybe I still go on Showdown and I still try different things first before I, you know, invest the time to get the VP needed to be able to move the sliders up and down, right? You know, because just simply testing requires time investment, and, you know, to be able to do that, you still need VP and you still need to invest time, you know, to battle. So instead of using time, you know, to farm resources, you know, to be able to change, you know, the EVs for this, the nature of that, and the ability of that, I'm instead using that time to battle, to accumulate the VP to be able to do that. So, you know, it's almost like, you know, give or take, it's almost like you still have the same amount of time being spent, right? So I still think Showdown will be, you know, the premier hub for testing things, just because of one, I can still move sliders up and down instantly and change them, right? You know, so this way I can get what I want and then do the whole thing in the game. And the animations itself, right? Because at the end of the day, you know, one of the other appeal points of Showdown was I can skip through the animations, you know, get the battle results that I want, right? And then, you know, make the team that I want in the game, right? You know, Champions is still, you know, involving these animations, right? Which is fine, of course, right? Because we still want that, you know, for the actual gameplay. But as far as like the testing part, you know, I still think Showdown is here to stay. Okay, so they told us about the modes here. We've known about this for a while now, but again, ranked battles and casual battles, this is something that's been around, for the games for a long time, where now ranked games, yes, you get a ranking, you get more as you win, and then you drop your rank as you lose. But the main thing to worry about now is you get VP with your ranked games. And that is, of course, important because you get currency for being able to do what you want with your mons. Get this nature, get that nature, invest these amount of EVs and whatnot. You need VP, and the only way to do that is to keep playing ranked games there, right? Then you have casual battles where, no VP involved. This is just something to, play and test with without having to worry about your ranking going up and down. But this is also why you have Pokemon Showdown. So this way you can bypass all these animations and, maybe play 6 or 7 games in the amount of time that you would play in one game on the main cart, because all the animations take time to go through. Whereas this, it's much faster, right? In terms of showdown stuff, right? Because you can click skip and just get the results that you need, right? And get the test results that you want for your competitive battling. But still, it's still fun to play and still fun to showcase to people, right? Especially if you're like a streamer and whatnot, you just want to play games on the cart. It just looks better. You just want to enjoy Pokemon. Sometimes showdown is just a little bit boring, but of course, the flashy animations just make it a little bit more of appeal, right? And then, of course, you have the private battles. This is something that's also been around. Now they're just calling it private battles, where how you have to enter in a code, and based on the common code that you and your friend or opponent have, then you can match up against them and play one-on-one. This is pretty much the same thing. Now they're just calling it private battles, but this has also been around for a bit. All right, I just want to end it here with something that Wolflick tweeted out earlier in the morning. He sums it up very, very nicely with this. The main point, though, is accessibility, right? And I want to highlight that over here. That's the word that we've been using in our video, right? Accessibility. The entry into competitive VGC has always been the #1 drawback. But now all of that is stripped. Well, I wouldn't say all of it, but most of it is stripped away now with Pokemon Champions here, right? The biggest uphill battle for competitive Pokemon has always been the time it takes to get Pokemon in-game. Yes, exactly. That's what we said in the video. I don't have to invest hours and hours of doing this, doing that, and now all of a sudden it's just easier. All I have to do is just accumulate the VP from ranked battles, and then I could do whatever I want with my Pokemon here, right? Being able to instantaneously train a Pokemon competitively, right? That's the main selling point here, right? And to be able to do it on your phone, okay? Again, we talked about cross platforms here, so that way, I don't have to always carry around my Switch, right? I could just log into the Pokemon Champions app and do it instantly, on my phone while I'm waiting for the bus, while I'm waiting for this, while I'm walking down the street, down the block. I could do it, okay? Means anyone who wants can start playing here, right? And it's just getting easier and easier now. So hopefully, Champions really turns out all that it turns out to be, right? It's good. It has a chance to be really big, and like he said earlier in another tweet, it can change the way we play competitively forever here if it is done correctly here, right? And it looks like it's in the right direction here, so we'll have to wait and see as we get more updates. But again, this is going to be released in 2026. But yeah, so that being said, let me know what you thought of what we heard from the presents as far as like Champions is concerned. And let me know if you're looking forward to Champions, if you have other takes, whether or not, this is the end of Showdown or whatnot. I personally think Showdown still remains, because again, the animations, that still takes time, but, Showdown is able to still bypass that. So yeah, in terms of, microtransactions, yes. Oh, that's the other thing that we haven't really talked about. Now, again, they did say, you cannot buy VP, which is, a huge win. So that means it's not pay to win. But, maybe if you want certain skins for Pokemon and maybe like some cosmetic access, for certain things, that's probably something called, like pay for convenience, right? So that part, won't affect the competitive aspect. But, there has to be some kind of microtransactions in some way, right? Because again, it is mobile, and every mobile game has to have, some type of way to make some money. So we'll have to see, what they do in terms of that. But this is these are big steps in the right direction for competitive VGC. All right, but anyway, that's gonna do it for now, folks. Let me know what you thought of what we saw from the morning from Presents, and let me know what you're most looking forward to. All right, but that's it for now. We'll be back with another video in the next one. Peace out and have a good one.